We can't talk about Barbie every single week. Hello and welcome, Star Wars fans, to this week's episode of Duel of the Ranks, a show we debate takes so hot that they'd melt a planet with twin suns. My name is Brody, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Brian and Amanda as we attempt to discover what story is truly the best from a galaxy far, far away. On this week's episode, we're going to be discussing ranks and hot takes from Season 1, Episode 16, Trespass. By the end of this episode, we'll have a definitive answer on where this piece of content ranks amongst the rest. Did I say something wrong, Amanda?
Yeah, that's not the name of the episode.
Gosh, wait, well, hold on. It says Trespass in our directory.
No, it's not that.
What is it?
It's the hidden enemy, which is the name of this stream right now.
Yeah, Trespass was the last one, so that might be.
I duplicated it.
All right, fine.
See, I can just give him anything, and he's gonna say it without even thinking through.
If it literally was called Barbie, I would have said that.
It's all the trust.
That I trust you. Just like trust was built on everything in this episode, and it was gone. So yeah. Well, we're gonna talk about this episode. But before we do, we have a big announcement to make. Brian is officially an official ranker on Duel of the Ranks. He's got his numbers in.
Even though they're off.
They're off. We gotta adjust those. We're 1 to 5. We're 1 to 5. So maybe
we were 1 to 10, but now with 3 of us, we're doing 1 to 5.
Yeah. So but we still have.
I see. Okay, so I have to cut those in half.
Yeah,
that's great. I thought I was going to be the only one that had anything good to say about this episode. So
he gave this episode 129.6%.
Best piece of content ever.
I was wondering what that meant. I was like, that can't be right.
He's like, you guys don't understand how good. You don't understand how good this episode really was.
Right now, actually.
All right, Amanda, what was this episode all about?
All right, episode 16, The Hidden Enemy. Anakin and Obi-Wan discover evidence of a traitor amongst their ranks while attempting to lead Republic forces to liberate the planet of Christophsis from a separatist siege. When the Republic is ambushed on Christophsis, it becomes clear that someone has set them up. The Jedi suspect the Sith, while Rex and Cody uncover information that points to a spy amongst them.
I don't understand how you both gave the characters like a 2.8 and a 2.7 out of 5. I gave it a 4 because this was amazing as far as characters are concerned. Like, obviously, I'm biased. I love clones. Anything Boba Fett, Jango Fett, I'm sold. And now we have this guy who's like, hey, he's individualistic. It's like, now, don't get me wrong. He's a traitor. He went about it the wrong way. But he, on his own, saw through the BS, was like, we're literally your slaves doing your bidding, and we're dying. And for what? I just want something nice. Like, the desire itself wasn't wrong. How he went about it was.
Yeah.
But the thing about it, it's thought-provoking. We finally have an episode of Clone Wars that warrants thought. You can think about what happened and say, ethically, he didn't go about it the right way, but let's sit down and think about this. And just like everything else with the prequels, nobody does. They're just like, that was a bad egg.
Yeah.
And the other clones, around, there's so many moments in the Clone Wars where there's a clone that's kind of defective. And what did he say? He's like, there was always something deficient about you.
Yeah. Okay. So I hear what you're saying. And I do really like that we get individualistic clones.
Yeah.
We're starting to see their different personalities and expressions more. And in that one specific scene that you're talking about, I find it funny because the clone whose name is Chopper, he's hiding the fact that he's been stealing droid fingers and creating a necklace out of them, like a war crime. And I find that just really funny that that's how they Star Warsify it, and yeah, they were like, I knew there was something messed up with you, as if it's real fingers or something. It's just pieces of metal. But
hey, droid fingers are valid fingers.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. I mean, Chopper just is. If with a name like that, you're just bound to be committing war crimes at some point.
Be a little crazy.
Yeah.
It kind of threw me for a loop when I heard that name. I was like, oh, I forgot they had a clone named Chopper in this. That's
Yeah, I did too. Kind
foreshadowing.
Definitely.
Is it or is the reason Chopper's so personable is because that actually is the clone.
That was like
He became more of a cyborg over time until the point he's just this droid.
There's a whole trilogy of films there to uncover how that happened.
There was something a little deficient.
I ended up ranking the characters like a 2.9, which isn't bad, like out of 5. But where it fell a little short for me was it felt like Ventress, and I love Ventress. I will objectify her sometimes. But this episode I felt like objectified her like too much. Like almost
It was pretty subjective.
It was really
I was like, okay.
Yeah, she was like
she and Obi-Wan had something going on before this. This is their first canon meeting, I think, like that we see. So they knew each other before.
Yeah, she says something like, she doesn't say this, but she's like, I know you want this, Obi-Wan. And I'm like, okay, wow. And she's just only wearing like ace bandage wraps over her whole body. I'm like, girl.
Yeah.
I hope that Velcro sticks.
Yeah. Just very. Yeah, she's putting a lot out there. We'll just put it that way. And it's funny because with the Clone Wars, it's almost like caricatures of real people.
For sure.
On every level. And it's like, oh, okay, like she's probably got an hourglass figure. So in the show, they're like, we're gonna make it physically impossible for a person like this to actually be
her waist is like as big as her neck.
Yeah. I'm like, that would that's literally a Barbie. That's a Barbie.
Yeah.
Like, all right, good for you.
But I do love her. But yeah, in this episode, I took a couple points back because I was like, it feels like her character doesn't have as much agency as I know that she can have in later episodes.
Yes.
Yeah, I felt the same. Yeah, about her and Obi-Wan and Anakin, like their kind of confrontation throughout the whole story seems like it's kind of just there so they can cut between the actual story. So that's the only reason I took points away for a story, because I do like the seeing clones actually challenge each other, and this is where you also get to see Rex and Cody kind of being good cop, bad cop a little bit. So there's good stuff there. They're not as fleshed out as they are in later seasons, and it's not as diverse, but I do like the clones, and the droids are cool too. They kick some butt at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
They really did.
So this episode actually serves as the prequel to the Clone Wars movie, which we were just talking about before we went on air, that we should add the Clone Wars film to our scheduled review after we finish season 1.
I've never seen it.
Me either.
Really?
Have you?
Wow. I saw it in theaters as a kid and I liked it. That's why I have such an affinity for season 1, I think. And why I can kind of forgive some of the animation as well. It's just that's what I grew up with. That's what I stayed home sick and watched.
Yeah, we watched this episode on Brody's 85-inch screen TV. That's like the most up-to-date thing, and it's sort of like the show didn't know how to work with the type of technology that's there, so it's
frames were dropped.
Yeah.
Many frames were dropped, and some things were kind of glitchy, and some
it kind of felt like when they were fighting and wrestling, like when you play with dolls and like their leg like flips up in this like random direction. It felt kind of silly in that way. Like they were just like, I don't know, scramble them.
Yeah, like he like straight up twisted Captain Rex's knee the wrong way, and he's just like, ouch. Like, wouldn't you like be done with walking for a good while?
Not these clones.
No. He's like,
it was just a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. Put it right back where I was. He's fine. He's fine.
So we were all in kind of agreement with the story. Brody gave it a 3.4. I gave it a 3.8. Brian gave it a 3.1. I think I ranked it the highest because I do like the intensity of a spy and a traitor amongst the ranks. That starts to get into the mystery of war, and you start to you see that Slick did become a traitor because he wanted freedom. And like you were talking about, he wants something, he just goes about it the wrong way.
Yeah.
And it gives us a moment to sort of empathize with, okay, I see where he's coming from.
Yeah.
Which is an important perspective to have.
It's foreshadowing for the Bad Batch for sure. There's a lot of comments. That's what the whole show is about, pretty much, is clones waking up and actually choosing this for themselves, not based on their programming or the chip or what other people tell them, but them waking up and saying, hey, this is just not right.
And this might be the first example of the clones doing that.
Yeah.
Historically.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at least within canon stuff. I'm sure there's expanded universe and I'm sure some video game stuff out there. But within canon, this is the first time we see a clone going rogue. So that was cool. I'd love to know, Brian, why you gave the music a far higher score than Amanda and I gave it.
Yeah, I think I kind of took some points from story and I put it into music because I think the music, I love like the Attack of the Clones score that comes in at the end. That's when I was like, oh yeah, they're drawing a direct line between them because they're both espionage stories.
Yeah.
So I think maybe the story was a little cliche and trite, so I took points away from there, but I liked how the music enhanced it and tied it into something that already existed. So I did love the score. I was surprised at how like original it was too. I mean, it was kind of basic composition and stuff, but it was mostly new music that I just wasn't as familiar with as most of the other soundtracks. So Attack of the Clones always gets a win for me though. So that reference.
I don't really remember the music from this. I did just see a poster the other day that said Attack of the Clones is 21 years old, which I was like stunned.
It's old enough to drink.
We're going to go to the bars later. Yeah.
Yeah. Attack of the Clones.
We buy a shot for our buddy here.
Yeah. You want to buy some dust sticks? You can now. You can now.
They're still illegal.
It's basically legal in Austin. Dust sticks.
I did want to call out, as far as the immersive universe goes, I am obsessed with the pinup posters.
Why are you obsessed?
In the Clone Wars, like, what do you call them? What do you call them? Not their barracks?
Yeah.
Okay. But because it's just such a great immersive universe tool. Like, we all, any parent that's kind of watching it too is definitely going to pick up on like, like any war film is going to have like pinup girls on it. And I have several Star Wars tattoos. I've always wanted a pinup lady, so maybe I should get like one inspired by the artwork
from season 1 of Clone Wars to choose from.
Yeah,
that they made that very clear here. Yeah,
and they were in the background of a lot of shots.
Yeah, it wasn't like discreetly
it was like,
hidden.
Leg.
We like spray painted on the LAATs. Yeah, they're pretty.
Yeah.
Child appropriate? I don't know.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they're all covered, but like we know.
Technically, a bit suggestive. There's a lot of that this first season. They're
just guys being guys.
We had that twice now. We had Ayla Sakura with just hips that never lie.
Boobies.
Just truth, the most truthful hips in the world. And then you have
Asajj.
Abraham Lincoln hips. They're just they're honest. They're just
I'm gonna always see Ayla Sakura as honest Abe hips. Anyway, with that being
Ahsoka with her like tube top.
Yeah, they're like the visuals this season. Like people, I don't know. You'd think people were having some sort of pandemic. People are home a lot, and just the design team was up to no good this season. We'll just say that. They're
just trying to sneak in little Easter eggs there.
There wasn't a lot of sneaking,
but like, I mean, how many
like robe dramatic.
But how many 8-year-olds are going to be like, oh, this is sexual? You know, not many.
Who said that?
I said, how many 8-year-olds are going to look at that and be like, that's sexual?
I don't know. We're entering a weird conversation now. I don't want to go down. But anyway, yeah. All I know is
Star Wars has always been horny too. Like we've talked about that. Like there's definitely, I mean, Leia laying there like, you're a little short for a stormtrooper.
The very first poster ever from like Star Wars, that painted one, is Leia is just like legs.
Yeah, body.
Abound. Yeah, like that's what that poster.
The posters were pretty horny. Yeah.
Yeah, they went out of their way to do it, and then they're like, Return of the Jedi. Well, let's cease the imagination. Let's just put it out there, and now we have.
They give us Jabba.
Yep, exactly.
Jabba, the most sexual being in the galaxy.
Disgusting. Yeah,
I love Jabba the Hutt.
tongue for
offensive
days.
to look at.
Just tongue.
His body is all tongue.
His body is all tongue. I love
okay. Early hot take.
Go for it.
Is Jabba the most sexual creature in Star Wars?
What does that even mean?
I don't know. I'm just trying to incite some violence.
My brain has taken so much of what you just said and tried to just immediately not even process
I could
it.
see it like misfiring. There's like sparks and you're like, oh, what?
I don't want to talk about this.
I don't want to reveal too much of my own inner workings, so I'm just gonna not answer that question.
Fair.
Yeah.
We can just answer that one off camera.
It's better not awaken anything in me.
Okay, listen, it's not that. It's just every night when you listen to your Jabba ASMR like you do to go to sleep, like, isn't that what we all do?
There is something nice about listening to like an alien voice that doesn't sound like anything, so it's kind of like background noise.
No Cristo solo. Sleep.
Yeah, there you go. That
As,
calms me down.
As Jabba puts like a feather on the mic and then starts making popping noise. The Jabba ASMR channel. Honestly, don't look it up, Star Wars fans. I don't know if that actually exists.
That'll probably take you to a deep place in the web.
I mean, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know.
I wouldn't know.
I mean, it might. It might.
I bet you Asajj Ventress ASMR exists. I would not be surprised about that. But Jabba, maybe someone, reading a book about Jabba.
Don't yuck someone else's yum.
No, that's yuck. That's yuck. Jabba, that's yuck. I don't think.
Wait, Jabba's not even in this episode. How did we get on this?
There's a tragically low amount of Jabba in this episode. That's why I ranked it so low. I agree.
Tragic. All right. What about Jabba's cousin? What's his name?
The one that sounds like this, Zero.
Oh my gosh.
Really good.
Can't do it. Like so many moments like that in the Clone Wars where I'm just like, oh.
It's so silly and goofy and such a good time.
It is a good time, but it's hard to take it serious. Like Rebels, from like pound for pound, you can really enjoy that. Ezra's pretty horrible. Besides him, it's just like, it's a good show.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's such a weird show.
It's a very different approach, I will say. It's like you wouldn't order a Big Mac from Cane's, like this is like, that's how I have to evaluate this episode, because it's a one-off episode. I would think of it very differently if it was like in an arc, and I think the story they tell within 20 minutes of this, I think it's pretty impressive. Yeah, it's what they can do with the runtime.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed this one. I actually think these solo ones are better than the arcs for the most part.
Yeah, because when you have a series that is like 24 episodes deep, you can't have much of a whole through line throughout the whole thing. It would feel so slow.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think they figure it out well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But alas, this episode, we gave an overall ranking of 61.6%. It's really nice to have 3 people ranking it again.
Yeah, I don't feel so much pressure to be like, I do love this. Not that now I'm totally discrediting everything we've done in the past, but like I have someone else to kind of help guide the conversation.
Well, it's also too, it'd be interesting because Ahsoka is our number 2 show, which of all time to this point, and I still stand by that. I think it's a little too close to Andor, but Andor season 2 will come out. But honestly, when I look at all of the shows, all of them, and everyone's just like hating right now on The Mandalorian because of season 3, but I really feel like Ahsoka really is the second best Star Wars show when you compare it to, you have The Mandalorian that's kind of everywhere and it's fun, but there's not really much there right now. And then you have Obi-Wan Kenobi that's just so slow. It's so slow.
It's just so contained. Like it really is. It's only like.
And there never felt like there were real stakes. You know who lives and who dies. And it's like, all right, like there wasn't anything really on the line. The Book of Boba Fett, that was like.
It almost had a good thing going.
But it was just weird in how it structured it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Ahsoka's also kind of sloppy, but at an 80%, I still feel good about that because there's such intriguing stuff in Ahsoka that even though the story was wonky, I feel good about an 80% for that show. I mean, the highlights, I still go back and watch. Like, it kind of actually kills me how good Hayden was in it because we never saw him like that in the prequels.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what kills me the most.
Incorrect.
But then how much of you ranking it is kind of like based on that nostalgic like feature? Is it as critical?
I tanked that last episode pretty hard.
Yeah.
I gave it I said it was one of the worst pieces of Star Wars content, that Ahsoka finale.
Whew.
I put it down at a 52.4%.
Yeah.
I mean,
Dang.
so no, I don't think it influenced, and Anakin was in that one, but it's just because like there was so much there and so much of it was enjoyable, and then it got to the finish line and it was just like, yeah, we don't even know if we're gonna do a season 2, but here's this.
We're setting up for something, maybe.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, all right, you didn't have any sort of contained story in the end, and like you've got to be able to finish. But overall, it was still an enjoyable show.
And some great filmmaking too, really, like with the ship combat and all that. I think they've taken everything from the past and use it in a cool way. The choreography, the music, obviously. Yeah.
The costumes.
Oh my gosh.
Costumes were great. Other than the contacts.
Yes, other than the contacts. And yeah, it's still so I mean, it's tragic that it got to an 80% on intrigue. Not much of a story. Intrigue got it there.
That's
Imagine
impressive.
if it had like really good story and if Ahsoka was more of an interesting character.
It felt like they were purposefully holding the story back.
Yeah.
Like the writers really didn't want to, they wanted to kind of just like trickle in these ideas that they want to pull you into like the future content of it all. And I kind of wish that they would have not been so afraid to, I don't know.
I feel like they didn't try. They were like, F it, we're not getting paid.
I hope it was intentional. Like, I think they left a lot of room for some really interesting things to happen, but that doesn't make it necessarily a good. That doesn't necessarily redeem it for being a boring, last 3 episodes.
Yeah, it just seems like there was too many cooks in the kitchen kind of feeling. Like, let's do this, and then let's do this, and this other guy's like, well, what if we do this? Like, great idea too. And they're doing so much that you're like, what is this really?
But to bring it all back, that's what we also like about the Clone Wars.
But there's so much.
Because they're like, we can do this, we can do that, we can do this. We can have a fun episode, or we can have like a serious episode.
But there are more than 8 episodes.
That's true.
I know.
Different
approach to storytelling with so many different characters they tackle in Clone Wars. There's, I mean, when you name a show after a character, there's like an inherent expectation that character is going to be interesting. Like Obi-Wan, that's why I put Obi-Wan far above Ahsoka on my personal list.
Because it is about Obi-Wan.
Yeah, and he's an interesting character. They actually challenge him, and he says something important about the Jedi and the state that they're in, where Ahsoka takes place in the perfect time for that. But yeah, they're probably just pulling their punches, saving it for Heir to the Empire.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping. I don't have a lot of faith in it or in that time period anymore, to be honest. I'm more looking forward to the Acolyte and the games and all the other great stuff happening, even Bad Batch, but I'll absolutely watch it 5 times in theaters, like I do either way.
Yeah.
I know. And speaking of that, is Acolyte still like coming out? When is that coming out?
Slated for next year still, so it's kind of up in the air.
What else Star Wars projects are coming out?
Skeleton Crew, I think, was supposed to come out this year before the strike happened, and I don't know if that is still on schedule, but Acolyte is really like the main one.
What is Acolyte?
It's the High Republic era, the first High Republic live action content we're getting.
And it focuses on the Sith point of view, because the Sith are like really small in numbers. So I know, right? So they're you're kind of like empathizing and put in the perspective of being in the Sith, and that's just so cool.
So I see. So the Acolyte, it's a movie.
No, it's a series.
Oh, it is a series in the High Republic.
Yeah.
Oh.
I know, right?
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
You should see the leaked trailer. It's awesome.
I refuse
All
to
right,
watch
send
the
it to
trailer.
Me. Send it to me,
I
Brian. Link it
can't
to me.
stop watching it. Yeah, let me
Send
find
it
it
to
on
me,
Reddit.
and I'll
I'll do that later.
yeah, and we'll. I need to watch now, and I want to watch Andor season 2, even if it's on someone's phone.
I need to
see both.
rewatch Andor season 1 again.
Yeah, I still feel good about giving it like an 80-something%.
I kind of want to give it like 10 more points.
I know. I feel like it's because everyone's on this hype train with it right now, where it is really good, but also it's not the best story I've ever told, and also their main character is still boring. Cassian Andor is still boring.
He
Like,
doesn't.
I can't.
Yeah, he doesn't get to where he's going. Yeah, I think at the beginning of Rogue One, they kind of have to merge in there, so they're kind of also having that issue that Obi-Wan had, where you know where they're gonna end up, but they have to tell it in an interesting way. So that does make Cassian's character a little more boring because he is already kind of a gray character at the beginning of Rogue One.
Yeah, he has to be the kind of like what they call like the straight man in a play where everything is sort of like happening around him. He is like in the center and everything else is orbiting around him and changing him.
All right. Well,
but yeah, Clone Wars. We ended up giving it a 61.6.
Yeah, there's a lot to
say.
lot to say on this episode. Well, with that said, should we go into the hot take segment of the show?
Let's go.
All right, let's go.
Roger.
Don't be too proud of this podcast you've constructed. The ability to rank content is insignificant next to the power of an exceptional hot take.
All right. I got a hot take.
Yeah?
Now, don't get me wrong. It's pretty easy for all of us to paint Slick as the bad guy. Oh, you hurt your brothers that you love and everything. And I understand. He didn't do a good thing. I totally understand that. But as we've seen in other Star Wars like Andor and everything else, usually the good guys have to get pretty messy too. And so the action it's of violence in of itself, as we would think of it, as like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. You did this. Well, he's a soldier. That's not that crazy. And if he had a little bit too much Django in him, and that's what we're kind of seeing here, someone who's out for themselves, it's really not that crazy. I don't think he actually ever intended to hurt his brothers, as you can see where the bombs did go off. It didn't seem like it did hurt anyone. So I don't think Slick's that bad of a guy. That's my hot take.
I think in the context of like the time period is towards the beginning of the Clone Wars, right? So in his mind, he might be trying to end the war before too many of his brothers get killed, right? Like maybe my battalion will go down if we let the Separatists take Christophsis, but like, you know, there's 200,000 other clones out there. You know, that's what he says. I'm fighting for all my brothers.
Yeah, speak up. And don't get me wrong, you got a paycheck in that, but still, I'm speaking up, and I'm going to show like, hey, we don't have to be uniform and just follow you blindly. So I don't know. And ultimately, if he had done that and been successful, we see these little things that could have just ruined Palpatine's plan of this war. It's like, he's like, why the heck are we fighting? For what? For what? Like, what even is this? And everyone's like, we're fighting because we're fighting the Separatists because we have to fight. He's like, why?
Yeah.
I don't care about your thing. Like, it's not my problem.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I don't know. I don't think he's so bad of a guy. I think he's actually someone who's on to something. So,
you know, didn't expect it to go this way, but based on how you argued that, I agree it's a hot take, and I agree with your take.
Hey, I honestly was expecting you to agree, though. Like someone breaking out of the norms.
Yeah.
And revolution.
And he's very like, he's like anti-war, but also like blowing things up.
Yeah.
I blow something up to save other things from being blown up. That's something they say in Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Brian, how do you feel about the take?
I was kind of agreeing with him. I mean, I was, as I was watching the episode too, I was like, yeah, methods are bad. Yeah, there's absolutely a way to leave and to walk away, you know, without, you know, betraying and lying and blowing up things. So I don't know if I would agree fully that he's a good guy, because there was still some selfish intention. Maybe those were just his justifications.
He would fit in with like Saw Gerrera.
Yeah.
He should go and join them.
I don't even know if he's like that. He's literally just Django. He's like, I just
Yeah.
want to get paid. This is stupid.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that in of itself isn't like evil. It's I'm going to also
destroy millions of credits worth of equipment.
honestly, F that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't care about none of that. Neither
Yeah.
should he, and neither should you, Star Wars
Yeah.
fans. No, neither should you. It was pointless, a pointless war, and he's like, I'm not going to support this thing. In fact, I'm going to sabotage it. Now, the only counter you could say is like, all right, so now all your brothers are going to die. So you got you took out their weapons depot.
Yeah.
So that's where it's like, all right, you went a little
unintended
far.
consequences.
You went, that was intended. He planted those bombs. That was a little intended.
Yeah,
that was pretty crappy.
Maybe if they hadn't caught him, they would have had to surrender. I don't know.
Yeah.
If
So you agree with me?
to do more damage.
So you agree? You disagree?
I agree.
Oh, that was so begrudging, but I'm glad you gave it to me because I really needed to hear.
I have a hot take.
All right.
At the beginning of this episode, the droids catch the Republic army off guard, and they show up in their base and start pew pew pew, knocking out clones left and right. My hot take is that if the Empire really wanted to be successful, they should have carried on with the droid army instead of the stormtroopers, because we already know how terrible of a shot that they have. But in this episode, we saw how great the droids are. They were just one-shot killing all of those guys. And I was like, wow, why would you deactivate this when they're so much more accurate?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's me in Battlefront.
Exactly.
Droids are superior. I'm just gonna say it.
So yeah, I think, and they're like more humane, you know? I mean, I do believe in droid rights, but to like clone an entire army just for like that with human life, not the ethically best decision in my mind.
Is it ethically any better for the Empire to propaganda people into volunteering for a pointless cause?
See, they wouldn't have to. They could save so much on their marketing budget by not even having to have people volunteer and just relying on the droids. And it would honestly create more jobs because they would need people to repair them.
Mm-hmm. That's what life's all about.
Better for the economy. Yep. So they really missed out. Yeah.
You're saying they should just stay with droids all around.
Yeah, they messed up by switching to. There's too much human error in the stormtroopers.
We should just replace people with droids.
I just think.
Yes.
I think when you view humanity and other life as just cannon fodder that can enlist and you give them crappy armor, that's so much cheaper than manufacturing droids.
But is it when you have to like keep finding more people because you're going through so many of them?
They don't really have a lot. I mean, the rebellion is pretty small. They have far more stormtroopers than they lose. That's why the war keeps lasting on for a couple years after the Battle of Endor. There's so many stormtroopers.
Yeah, they blew up 2 Death Stars worth of stormtroopers, and they just keep coming.
Yeah, I know, but like you could have multiple different droid facilities on different planets that are just constantly cranking them out.
But someone's got to pay for that.
Yeah, the people doing the war. What they're already paying for it.
So you're saying in the Clone Wars perspective, they should have just done that instead of clones, period.
Financially and morally, they should have kept with the droids instead of moving to human stormtroopers.
So why do you think Palpatine orchestrated that?
Because he was not the chosen one, and eventually he would have to fall. So it was one of his few fatal mistakes.
All right.
So if he would have kept droids,
but somehow
Palpatine could still be in power.
I'd like to think that Palpatine like is misunderstood and that we always think of his dark side prowess, but like this guy's an economist, okay?
He appreciates opera. He likes the fine arts.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's evil. Like he's a very bad person, but also he understands economics. And I mean, the way he's operated his whole like the
He's
funding
got a
of the
whole
Death
like
Star,
trade federation like
the dude understands
tactics.
money.
Yeah.
Like he just gets it.
Okay,
And
but back to my hot take.
yeah, I don't know. I don't think you're right because like it was already funded before like, and I don't actually know like how this whole thing. Remind me again how this whole thing started because it was Sifo Dyas, but it was really Count Dooku. How did the clone army come about again?
That's basically it.
Yeah, Sifo Dyas, and then Jango.
But why
Pretty
did
much all the explanation they give you?
yeah, but why did Sifo Dyas even like do that? Like, why did
I can't remember now. It's
'Cause
from
it was
Jedi Lost.
Yeah, it was orchestrated essentially by Dooku, the dark side, and all that. Because didn't they kind of have more hints of that too in those Tales of the Jedi episodes as to why he? Would... Yeah,
I think maybe they say that Sifo Dyas foresaw a war coming, and he started this whole process to protect the Republic. And then Dooku maybe kind of hijacked it, is what it seems like. If I'm remembering correctly, is it season 6 where they really dive into that? You don't really get to see Sifo Dyas himself except in the hologram, maybe. But
well, they say after the Jedi rejected his ideas and removed him from the Council, he secretly contacted the Kaminoans and commissioned them to create a clone army, which he led the Kaminoans to believe was for the Republic. So he was kind of like this conspiracy theorist gone rogue, and he did this thing. But what I don't understand, how did he have the funds to do that? All right, let's just we need Chaco here. What is
I know, right?
All right, how did Sifo Dyas afford?
It's an expensive army.
What was Sifo Dyas's net worth and his liquid investments and credit score?
As a Jedi, it's probably very low.
Yeah.
Those dudes are broke.
So he tricked. So it was Count Dooku who did use Sifo Dyas to order the clone army. So it didn't come back to him. But Dooku's
rich.
He's super wealthy. So apparently
they own a planet.
Dooku's so wealthy that maybe there was like an upfront deposit for an army, and he's like, yeah, Dooku's able to front that, and
I need $350 billion just as a deposit.
Yeah, to
get this started.
Yeah, to get this started. And they was like, yeah, no problem. And like that's everything he had, but he was working with the Emperor, who's like, don't worry, we'll pay you back. We'll pay you back. Like the Republic's gonna take on the rest of these, and then you'll get yours. All right, that makes more sense, kinda.
Okay, so did I have a hot take or not?
No. No. Now that we understand how this all came about, because it was still the Emperor who was using Dooku, who was using Sifo Dyas to do this thing that was otherwise. I mean, look, let's just break down the economics of this. What's more costly? Third Google search. What costs more?
Droids or clones?
Or droids?
Yeah, what is the price per unit for each life?
Okay. So this
Dooku does say those droids are expensive.
Okay, so B1 battle droids cost 1,800 credits, and B2 were 3,300s. Droidicas were 2,100 credits. So it looks like whereas... Okay, so the cost of just creating the clones was 29... Let's see. Looks like billion...
Credits?
Yeah, 29,576,000,000 credits. But that was just the cost of creating the clones, which means the price
to upkeep
them. So the price per clone is 162,668 credits, which means the total cost is 448,400,000,000. So by comparison,
it's cheaper to do the droids.
The droids were 1,800 for a B1, and a B2 is 3,300 and 21,000 for a droidica. But they said even at that price point, a droidica kills a clone off has already earned its cost back in the attrition rate inflicted on the enemy nearly 8 times over. Ladies and gents, the Republic far fielded the more expensive army. They also destroyed a ridiculous number of droids because their soldiers were of a much higher quality. In the end, though, each clone trooper would need to be capable of killing 91 B1 battle droids, 52 B2 battle droids, and 8 droidicas for them to be able to outmatch the price per unit of a droid army.
And that is a no.
No
Those are
run.
varsity scooter numbers.
Well, I guess Amanda was right. With all that said, you've earned yourself a Roger. Because it's just math. It's just math.
There we go.
Economics.
That's your economics lesson. I love that our Roger is also a B1 droid. So yeah.
Now we
Absolutely.
know. But the next question we have to ask is, did the average person kill 91?
No way they did.
Not the way they fought this episode.
No way.
No, like every time you see him going down, just money, stay up, stay up. You're so expensive, man. Well, it makes sense why they would stop paying for them very quickly after the war. All right, Brian, do you have a hot take?
I do. I've seen a lot of hate for seasons 1 and 2 of the Clone Wars, in particular for, mostly for their animation or whatever. Honestly, I'm looking through the episode list here. Season 1 slaps. Like, you start out with a banger. Yoda giving some like truth. Like, this is like my favorite Yoda dialogue ever, because he's actually like a good guy. Like, the rest of the series, he's kind of an antagonist, actually. That might be a hotter take, that I'm not a big Yoda fan.
Ooh.
I think that's a take for another day. But then you get the Malevolence arc, which is sick. Rookies is a great one-off episode. You get to really, know the clones early on. You get some R2 focused episodes. Maybe the Gungan, the Jar Jar episode is skippable. Then you get some Ahsoka versus Ventress. You get Lair of Grievous. That episode's insane. And then Jedi Crash is awesome. Got some of the greatest sequences. That arc. Trespass even has like a lot of really unique design and cool characters. I'm kind of sad that I didn't get to review the rest of the season up till this point. But and then it finishes off with Ryloth. Like, come on. Almost all of it is straight bangers.
You said a lot.
Yeah, wow.
First off, Yoda.
Jeffrey Miller's in the comments. Don't say such a thing.
I don't agree with Yoda's philosophy. I think I think it's clear, like, that's how he was written in The Phantom Menace, is that his obsession with rules and order is exactly what leads to people wanting to leave the Jedi Order, and leads to them becoming kind of emotionally stunted and not really able to, they're kind of disconnected from the rest of the galaxy.
Which is why his reappearance in The Last Jedi is so meaningful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anytime I can throw my flowers at The Last Jedi.
Thank you. Yes, no, I was fighting my friend over Last Jedi on Friday, and I was telling him that, like, Yoda in that, he actually like justifies his actions kind of and says like, I was kind of wrong. Let's just like get rid of the texts. Let's just like quit our obsession with rules and just like be good people and just kind of adapt to the times and, let ourselves, love again.
We could have all prevented Anakin from turning to the dark side then.
But another thing, I feel like Yoda shouldn't have been a puppet in that, and they should have gone back to CGI, because that puppet was not.
No,
it was not looking like.
That's
Return
another
of the
hot
Jedi
take.
Puppet. Yeah, it wasn't looking like Return of the Jedi puppet.
Yeah,
it was its own thing.
I'm still pro puppet.
It was not a good puppet.
Pro Phantom Menace puppet.
I'm just pro practical effects across the board.
I generally am, but that puppet was bad.
Yeah, it was a bad puppet. And it was honestly not practical effects as it was CGI in the end.
Bad puppet.
All right, but your take on the season slaps.
It's a hot take. It's a hot take.
It is a hot take.
But I disagree.
Yeah, because with the numbers so far say it doesn't. But that's okay.
You tried.
You did try, and you'll try again next week, as we all will. But for this week,
I got a bad feeling about this hot take.
Next week, we'll try again.
Yeah.
But that's this week's episode.
We covered a lot. I didn't realize I was going to get a whole economics lesson.
Honestly, I love this stuff. Like, I love the nerdy numbers.
That is kind of cool. I kind of wish, like, I could take in college, my econ class could be like framed around Star Wars, and maybe I would have retained
so much more.
Yeah.
So much more. And be like, well, your argument, I was like, this is really easy. As long as we know what the math is.
Well, and I've always wondered why, like what is like the science and math behind being a moisture farmer? Like all of the weird like math and intricacies of the Star Wars universe is interesting, but I am not. Is that left side of the brain, right side of the brain? I don't know. I'm the
Left's
creative
creative.
one.
Yeah. Well, okay, I think it's left. Anyway, so with that though, I am curious because I was thinking, well, if people enlist to be stormtroopers, it just makes sense to do that and like, use these people instead of droids. But now that I'm thinking about it, droids don't sleep and droids don't eat. Now they have to recharge. There's some level of maintenance with oil and all this other stuff. But like, I would question if it exceeds that of, food, shelter, heating,
water,
cooling, water, facilities. Like,
droids don't need a mental health day.
Yeah, they're always on all the time.
They don't need a lunch break. Yeah.
So the question is, like, now that we're thinking about it, but how much more efficient are stormtroopers than? I mean, it's known that droids kind of suck.
But they're better than stormtroopers.
Are they better than stormtroopers?
Yes.
The Jedi cut through these things like butter. I guess everyone cuts through stormtroopers like butter too. So I don't know.
That's my point.
All we know is clones are the best, but they cost a lot. So don't get clones.
Yeah. If you're trying to build an army from scratch, it's probably not the best investment.
No.
Buy a bunch of droidicas.
Get a bunch of droidicas. That's
just skip the B1, B2. Go straight to the droidicas.
Can you imagine if you had like a pet droidica? Aww. Like a small one?
It stayed small?
Yeah. Like, it doesn't grow up. It's just like kind of like those little pigs.
Like a droidica corgi.
Yeah.
It rolls around, and when it's hungry, it shoots you. It's like pew pew pew. Feed me.
Yeah, but it's like
cute.
Yeah, it tickles. Yeah, like
oh, droidica. Dika. Okay, I think we should end the episode now. We're getting a little too goofy.
We should end this one, but that's this week's episode of Duel the Ranks. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk about more Clone Wars next week. So don't worry, we'll be back same time every week. Thursday nights, 7:00. Join the conversation with us. It's always a lot of fun. And we'll just be back here. And otherwise, we're just going to sit here until next Thursday. We don't go anywhere else.
We'll just be waiting right here.
We'll wait right here for you. And we'll be back and go live again then. See you next Thursday.